This video will be especially useful and interesting for men who struggle to understand women. Many believe female logic doesn't exist, but it does. And understanding women is much easier than it seems. Today, I want to share some insights I've gained through my professional experience. As you know, I worked with both men and women in consultations. That's exactly what we'll be talking about. A woman's soul is like a pharaoh's thumb to a man, incredibly fascinating, but full of traps and signs in a foreign language. Men don't understand the nature of women's emotions, what she feels, how she thinks, why she suddenly pulls away. That's why it may seem like a woman can fall out of love out of nowhere and say something like, Mike, I think we need to break up, as if for no reason at all. The real difficulty lies in the fact that men and women experience emotions differently. They operate by completely different rules. If you want to understand and predict a woman like an ancient oracle, you first need to understand the principles behind how her emotions arise and fade. Let's start with something simple, something obvious, yet many men still trip over it. A woman cannot love from a position of strength, just an observation. As long as you're proud, independent, and driven, she loves you, admires you, and sees a future with you. But then a collapse happens. Maybe your business takes a hit, or you have health issues, you feel crushed, weakened. At first, she might offer some support, but fast forward a couple of months, and you notice she's becoming distant. That emotional closeness you once had is gone. Not long after, she grows cold and leaves. You know what's the most interesting part? Sometimes, especially when a woman has a superiority complex, she'll help you just enough to feel like a good, decent person. She'll tell herself, look at me, I'm doing the right thing, I'm kind. But once she feels she's done her good deed, she starts thinking, if I'm such a good person, why am I still with this guy? I deserve better. And just like that, under the mask of virtue, something truly awful happens. For a man, it's a stab in the soul, betrayal at the hardest point in life, the exact moment when the relationship is being tested for real. But to her, it doesn't even feel like a betrayal. She doesn't connect your crisis to her decision to leave. She doesn't reflect on the situation because doing so would mean facing some very uncomfortable truth. And let's be honest, self-reflection is really convenient. If she were to truly understand what she's doing, she'd have to act against her feelings. And instead of dealing with that, she simply makes a deal with herself. She convinces herself it wasn't about your crisis, no. It was because you stopped being attentive, or snapped at her twice, or weren't growing anymore. In reality, she just grabs the first excuse she can find, like someone rushing into a store to buy milk and grabbing whatever's closest without even checking the expiration date. So, if we really think about it, and I've seen a lot of these situations in my practice, relationships basically boil down to just two possible outcomes for men. Option one, it's a temporary relationship that will fall apart at the first serious crisis on your end. This is the scenario you'll get with about 97% of women. What's the solution here? Don't expect her to be your strategic ally. Don't believe she'll stick by your side when life hits hard. Don't count on her to show up for you when everything's falling apart. If you accept this reality, you'll stop being blindsided by it. You'll enjoy their relationship for what it is, knowing full well that it's conditional. Ironically, this mindset can even help things go smoothly for a while because your expectations are realistic. Option 2. You somehow find one of the rare 3% of women capable of real, inconvenient, even sacrificial loyalty. Putting a woman like this isn't easy, not without a lot of experience. It's like buying a piece of tech. The box looks great, the specs sound amazing, there's even a warranty, but once you start using it, even trusted brands can let you down. To pick something truly reliable, you need life experience and a deep understanding of what you are dealing with. Let's keep going. The second major factor every man needs to understand about women is this: a deep emotional tendency toward drama. You've probably noticed it, like how she might tear up while watching Titanic. You might find that kind of thing silly or pointless, but for many women, drama is like oxygen. It fuels them emotionally. That's why in relationships, things can seem totally fine. And then suddenly, boom, and full-blown catastrophe out of nowhere. Maybe you said something that hurt her feelings just a little, and now she's deeply wounded. This is what love and drama looks like. Now here is where most men mess up. They think they should immediately fix it, calm her down, apologize, smooth things over. But in reality, that's exactly the wrong move. Why? Because she wants to experience those feelings. That dramatic emotional arc is satisfying for her. If you jump in every time trying to make peace, not only are you depriving her of what she subconsciously wants, you're also showing her that you are emotionally vulnerable to her mood swings. And once she sees that, her attraction to you will plummet. Here is the hard truth. The guy who rushes in to patch things up at every sign of conflict isn't giving her what she's craving. She wants the drama. If you short-circuit it every time, she won't feel fulfilled. And worse, she'll see you as weak. And sure, some women take this to the extreme. You may have even been in relationship like this, one where every couple of months she creates a huge scene, forces you into a corner where you either stand your ground or risk losing her completely. You are left thinking, why is she doing this if everything seemed fine? But here is the truth. Even if that drama didn't show up for years, it was probably there all along, just waiting for your dominant, confident energy to waver. And the moment it does, boom, suddenly she explodes over something random. You start chasing, and she starts pulling away. At the same time, a man can love from a position of strength, and that's exactly what he must do. But dramatization, on the other hand, is absolutely unacceptable for a man. Once a man slides into that emotional drama mode, it turns into unrequited love, endless suffering over an ex, regret over missed opportunities, or even worse, a shared toxic script full of breakups and makeups. You know, the kind of story, You break up 2, 5, 10 times. You convince yourself this is some kind of epic, forbidden love. You tell your friends it's just that life is complicated, the timing isn't right, but we keep finding our way back to each other. Feels like a romance movie, but it's not. It's a mental and emotional hell, and when it's all over, you'll be left broken, exhausted, and worst of all, emotionally disabled when it comes to healthy relationships. Here is the brutal truth. Men get addicted to these kinds of relationships. I've talked to so many guys who know it's bad for them, but they can't stop chasing it. Or they've already ended it, but now they say, I just can't feel anything for anyone else. I'm numb. That's no coincidence. That's the damage those relationships do. They distort your entire emotional wiring. They revive your desires so that healthy, stable love feels boring or even repulsive. And once that happens, you're no longer capable of building something real. It's important to understand that women dramatize things because their emotions usually outweigh their logic. Men can also be prone to drama. In some cases, that kind of weakness can be harmless, like when you are watching a movie or playing a game, but in a relationship, that kind of behavior is unacceptable because every couple needs a center, a single, stable center for making final decisions. What's the classic scenario of decision making in a couple? Compromises, or at least that's what people believe. A lot of the time, a man overestimates a woman's rationality, her level of awareness. He tries to reach consensus with her, and sometimes even does things the way she thinks is best. Before long, she starts calling the shots. How they live, where they work, how the money is spent, when to start a family, whether to move to another city or not. A year or two into the relationship, she suddenly says, no, I'm not okay with any of this. Everything is wrong. Let's do it differently. I changed my mind. The man is shocked. He's confused. But we had an agreement. I did things the way you asked. We decided this together. But the woman doesn't feel bound by what she said a year ago. She says, come on, Mike, that was then. Things are different now. You get it? And she gives a new set of reasons for why everything needs to change. Now, the man faces a choice again: give in and agree or walk away. And if he stays, there will just be more compromises, more sudden changes, and eventually another man in her life. No joke. The truth is, only someone who's emotionally independent from the decision-making process can actually make a final decision. That's why a man who understands women always makes the final call himself, because he's learned one key lesson from all this experience. A woman wants to depend on her partner. She wants to pursue him. For her, the most important part of a relationship is feeling, which means her choices will always be based on emotion. And those emotions can be completely different tomorrow than they are today. The worst part is that every time a woman takes control in the relationship, she feels less and less emotion. Her attachment fades. And at some point, the relationship becomes completely uninteresting to her. It loses all its value. It's incredibly hard to shake the illusion that making compromises will somehow improve their relationship. The truth is, most men lack a certain strategic mindset. He sees that today he made a compromise. She smiled, gave him a hug, seemed happy, and that's it. He doesn't look ahead. He doesn't try to connect the dots. He doesn't want to remember in the moment she leaves what decisions were made a year ago, that those decisions are what led to this outcome. Instead, he's hooked by the immediate reward. That's it. And like a fool, he falls right into the trap. We are afraid to admit a simple truth. The one who invests more in the relationship, in their partner, is always the one who feels more attached. We always bond with those we take care of. That's why the only kind of relationship that actually works long term is the one where the woman consistently proves her worth, where she's actively showing her reliability, her consistency, her genuine desire to build a future together. But right now, a lot of women don't want to take on that kind of role, and they don't even try to hide it. And yet, men still don't see it. And then they ask questions like, Maria, how can I make her want to live with me? And I think, how do you imagine that working, my friend? To me, it's like this. You go fishing, spend 2 hours baiting the spot, set up all your gear, and then drive into the lake with your hands, trying to jam the fish onto the hook yourself. Why do you even have fishing gear if you are planning to catch a fish with your hands? Make a decision. Either use your hands or the rod. Either the man clearly says, starting today, we'll live together, pack your things and move in. And then she has to prove she's serious about the relationship. Or the woman, in a calm and non-pushy way, starts creating that situation herself, and not through manipulation, like, you're not taking me seriously. No, she does it differently. She comes over, cooks something delicious, tidies up the house. She shows through her actions, life with me is better than life without me. Your life improves when I'm part of it. And again, this has to happen at every stage of the relationship. Unfortunately, what we see around us is the completely opposite. All these traditions, a man getting down on one knee with a ring and asking, will you marry me? While humbly waiting for her answer. That's what we are witnessing. The most important thing is to make it flashy and expensive, so the beauty will be impressed and the princess will remember it. And this man plans to be the leader in the relationship. He expects to become the head of the family after doing that. He's already caved to society's expectations and to the woman's desires. And this is during one of the most important decisions in a relationship, maybe in his life. Why do we think this is normal? Because the man remembers his parents or maybe his grandparents and thinks, well, they had something like this. But there is one crucial difference. That old generation came from a completely different era. When they had that kind of template forced onto them, where men had to worship women, they could still live with it. Back then, there was a clear gap between the male and female worlds. Women had real reasons to depend on family. It was, in a way, a game. The man still knew his own value, and those rituals weren't taken that seriously. Plus, people back then had a stronger moral foundation. That's what helped them stay together despite all of it. In other words, the societal framework back then didn't let that flawed model of relationships fully take over. People didn't really buy into it. But us, we are the results of that experiment. That's why the institution of marriage and family is falling apart today. And when someone says, but my parents did the same and they're fine, it's like a guy sitting by a lake with no other fishermen around, still trying to catch fish. You tell him, buddy, there is no fish here anymore. And he replies, what do you mean? My grandpa used to catch 60 pounds of bream here 60 years ago. He told me all tricks, which bait, which weather, everything. I'm doing it exactly the same way. It has to work. But what he doesn't get is the conditions have changed. Society has changed. And that means people have changed too. As you probably know, most men are overjoyed on their wedding day. The wedding becomes the most extravagant celebration, the one event it's okay to borrow money for, to spend to the max. And most importantly, men feel happy that day, genuinely happy. But do you know why? The more excited a man is about getting married, the less he's ever felt like the woman truly belongs to him, like she's genuinely devoted. In other words, the less confident he is in her as a partner, in her reliability, in her loyalty, the happier he gets. Because now he finally has a reason to lie to himself, to tell himself, now we're officially together, we're closer than ever. She's confirmed she's serious, she loves me for real now, everything will be fine. That's what's really going on. And from what I've seen, the strongest and healthiest relationships, do you know what they usually look like? They just happen naturally. Life goes on, they are living together, everything is good. Then one day the guy says, hey, maybe we should get married, make it official. And she goes, yeah, maybe we should. That's it. Those kinds of relationships are way stronger because the bigger the wedding, the bigger the celebration, the more joy there is that day, the more tears there will be later. It always works like that. And this actually serves as a pretty good test for a woman. It shows how much importance she really places on all these ceremonial romantic customs. If she treats them as super important, believe me, besides emotions, she doesn't really want anything from you. And pretty soon you'll stop giving her those emotions and someone else will come along who will give her even more. That's it. Some people say that the principles and standards I talk about on this channel regarding women, relationships, and behavior in a couple are too strict. Where does that feeling even come from? Why is it that when men romanticize and dramatize, they are quick to do crazy things? People share stories in consultations about the wild stuff they've done, how they completely threw away their own principles, risked their health and well-being, and literally trampled themselves into the ground. And all that madness was treated as normal. So why do the healthy boundaries and guidelines I talk about now seem so extreme to some? You want to know why? In most cases, there is only one explanation for that attitude toward strictness. Strictness toward a woman doesn't come from being harsh or cruel. It comes from being strict with yourself. And in the areas of life where a man can't be strict with himself, he won't be able to show that strictness toward a woman either. For example, if a man shows himself to openly check out other women while in a relationship or even have a side fling, then when his woman says, "That's it, I'm done," or just leaves him for someone else, he won't be able to hold this ground. He won't be able to stand on principle because she broke some moral code. But he himself wasn't strict enough with himself in the first place. That's all there is to it. At that moment, he's robbed of the chance to really feel disappointed. So usually when a man finds evidence of her talking to someone else or losing interest, he reacts emotionally, I'd even say hysterically. He might yell, "After this, I'm done with her forever." But most of the time, those words remain just words. Here is another example. A man who chooses a woman based purely on the feeling of, "I fell in love." Some spark, some vibe he felt. He experiences that kind of love that's reckless, blind, and overwhelming, absolute passion. If one day that woman tells him, "Listen, I don't love you anymore," he still won't be able to feel genuine disappointment. He simply isn't capable of it. Why? Because he lives the same way she does. So, to gain mental strength and be able to show strictness toward a woman, which is necessary, a man first has to be strict with himself. He needs to be intolerant of his own flaws and weaknesses. It's hard and not very pleasant, but once you do that, your relationships will change. Your choices will change too. Basically, when we talk about what distinguishes mature relationships from childish ones or troubled ones from healthy ones, in childish relationships, nobody owes anyone anything. Mature people, when they decide to be together, primarily evaluate what each of them is willing to give up for the sake of a good family relationship in the future. A good woman is exactly defined by this quality, and a man who sees himself as a leader knows very well what he's willing to give up. Sometimes it's selfishness, sometimes certain weaknesses, but most importantly, he gives up chasing false love and pointless hangouts. And when he consciously limits himself for something constructive, that's when a man gains real strength. He starts looking for a woman who's willing to make sacrifices and set limits too. But when people are told to just find compromises and avoid strict boundaries within the relationship, what they are really building as is a relationship based solely on pleasure, which is temporary. The foundation of those relationships is an emotional fling. They are unclear from the start because of the lack of limits. And over time, that all turns into a confusing family life. Eventually, one partner starts causing real chaos, while the other, often suffering from Stockholm syndrome, tries to save something or someone. But there is nothing left to save, because at that point, nobody cares anymore. These are the couples doomed to break up. But there is a silver lining. The person who feels pain from the breakups has a chance to change, while the one who's like a dog chained to a dog house, seeking momentary comfort and easy pleasure, has only a sad future ahead. A future where that fleeting happiness will inevitably end. I hope now you understand why in relationships built on so-called compromises, it's almost always the woman who ends up leaving. Because compromises can never be a true 50-50 all the time. One partner will always give more and more, sacrificing their own interests. And who ends up giving more? Option number one, the one who is in the more dependent position. Let's say the man tries to live like this. The woman provides way more reasons for concern. People don't approach you at work, but they approach her. Nobody talks to you on the street, but they talk to her. And if she has some kind of social circle, well, you get the idea. And you will just silently tolerate all of it so as not to bring chaos into your relationship. Moving on. A woman can be more convincing than a man in certain discussions, defending her positions. But here is something to note. You can just sit down, cry, and say, "You hurt me, I'm so tired of this." She can do it. And you end up comforting her, making up in the middle of her dramatics. So overall, the woman is in a winning position here. Moreover, the one who tries to play the compromise game more honestly is the one who loses. That's the flow of this system. It's completely fake, no sincerity at all. And I'm not saying men always play more honestly, no. But men tend to be more consistent, generally, most of the time. Well, a woman can allow herself, as we discussed, to live a bit differently. And after 6 months or a year, she might resort all previously made agreements. In general, in the system of compromises, the one who can better play the victim is the one who wins. When a woman pretends to be the victim, it works effectively because the man rushes to comfort her. But when a man pretends to be the victim, he's simply told, "You are not a man." And then a woman just loses interest in him. You see, right? It's a pattern. You lose no matter what. And the last thing I'll say for today, almost every one of us has already tasted what romanticized relationships are and how painfully they end. For that reason, breaking up will inevitably be tough for each of us for a while. You'll want to remember those moments, those feelings you had in the past, because nothing else compares to them. It's a completely different state when you were waiting for your next meeting with her, when just the reminder that you'd see each other again made you so happy, when the usual routine, troubles, and traffic jams seemed trivial compared to the emotional charge she could give you, when you planned your life, some trips you would take together, and that feeling, that anticipation was vivid and rich. Why? Because she existed. When you were near her, your resilience seemed to increase. You were less vulnerable to worries. I could talk for a long time, but you understand what I mean. But you must understand a simple rule. The more a woman boosts you emotionally, the harder the fall will be. And if she emotionally boosts you and you are on some emotional high, that's an unhealthy story and it will end badly. And it will end, believe me. There is no need for illusions, no need for fantasies that you'll always be in some mutual passion for each other. It won't last forever. It will end, believe me. The thing is, only one partner can afford to romanticize a relationship, never both. If the woman was the one romanticizing at first and then you start doing it for some reason, she'll stop. Women don't want a man who romanticizes the relationship. So it's always just one partner doing it. So here is the conclusion. If you are the one who romanticizes, you'll be the one left behind.